set us up. And this series is building your own NAS. And in this episode, we're going to show how to encrypt an existing LVM and preserve all the data. Normally when you do encryption, you have to back up your data, format it, put the backup back on. I'll show you a way to get around that. So let's begin. Okay, I've booted into my Windows system so I can use PuTTY and the clipboard if I need it. Do some copy paste. Anyway, so I've got PuTTY fired up and I've connected to our NAS. Now this NAS has a 8 GB LVM on it with a test file. So this is not the NAS we were using in earlier videos where I've created window shares and all that jazz. So anyway, let's take a look at LS block. You can see that I have on SDB, at SDB1, I have an LVM called NAS. It's mounted on NAS. So if I go to NAS, you can see there's a file there called test, and I've put a bunch of random data. Well, it's not random, it's lorem ipsum. In case you've never seen that before, it looks like Latin. Anyway, so this should be a good test. So what we're going to do is we're going to encrypt this LVM and keep the data. Normally with encryption, you would back this data up, and then format the hard drive, encrypt it, and then restore the data. That's not going to work for us probably if we have a full terabyte of data on a hard drive. I will suggest though that you do have a backup of the data. You should be backing up data anyways, and in a future video I will be addressing backup both near and offline. So anyway, back to this. So we have our LVM, and if we go to VG display, NAS, just the one drive is 8 GB. And I'm not going to be adding any drives, I'm just going to be re-encrypting in place this drive. So let's proceed. The first thing we need to do is we need to download a utility, and it's called, we use Yum, and also notice I've logged in as root just to simplify things. Normally you would not do that. Yum install cryptsetup-reencrypt. And we'll wait for Yum to find it, and we'll download it. Okay, so we've got that done now. I'm not sure what is going on, why this is flashed around. Anyway, let's see, maybe I'll just, instead of going full screen, or maximize, I will keep it like this. Let's see if that works better. Okay, so cryptsetup-reencrypt is what will allow us to encrypt the drive with data already on it. So let's get out of our NAS, and we're going to, I don't know why it's flashing, doesn't make any sense. Okay. So we're going to, I want to go ahead and unmount NAS. Whoops. So something's got the file open. I wonder what it is. Let's see. I don't have that. Do I have fuser? No, of course not. Oh, I think I know what it is. On the actual NAS console was in the NAS folder. Let me get out of that. So let's try that again. Good. All right. So now we've unmounted it. So what we're going to do is do what we're going to do. Do the re-encryption. So if we look at our LVM. God, this is annoying. We're looking at the, let's see, we want to look at the NAS. Okay, so we have one drive, and we have the entire drive dedicated to it. Let's see. There we go. So we have 0 free. When you do re-encryption or encryption, there is a header that is usually attached to the volume. This header contains the information needed to do decryption, basically the passphrase and other information like that, and it's encrypted itself. And this header can be, I think, 4 megabytes. So normally you would need to resize your volume to add some additional space in, so that when cryptsetup-reencrypts, it can have the room to put this header information in. In this particular case, we have allocated everything to our LVM, so we don't have room for that. We cannot do a resize, but that's fine. So if we look back at LS block, you notice we have an SDC, and that SDC is actually a USB stick, and we can do if we do LSL dev disk by ID, you can see the SDC is right here, and it's a USB. And it's not formatted or anything, it's just a USB stick. So what we can do is when we set up the encryption volume, we can tell it to put the header on that USB stick. And therefore we can eliminate the need to do any kind of resizing of our LVM. And there's a bonus to this, that once, well, you have to have you're going to have this USB stick in the computer when you first boot it up, so that when it tries to mount the encrypted volume, it can know where to go get the header information. But once it mounts it and you're all booted up, you can then take that USB stick and store it somewhere, let's say in a safe or something like that, a secure place. Then if someone breaks into your house and steals your computer with a hard drive on it, without that USB stick, that hard drive is random data, and there's no way they can decrypt it. So you get an extra, of course they would also have to have the passphrase even if they had the header. So I'm not saying that the other ways we set it up, where we encrypted it during install of the OS, where the header is on the hard drive itself, that's fine. It's still secure because they would need the passphrase. But this gives you an extra layer of security. So what we're going to do is very simply run encrypt setup, re-encrypt. We're going to give it the path to the device, so it's dev mapper NAS, and this is new, and we're going to give it a header that's pointing to dev SDC. I believe that will do it. Okay, so now we got to set our passphrase up. So I'm going to put in a passphrase. All right, we should get a status screen. In a second, and it'll give us progress on the encryption of the drive. There we go. So this is 8 gigabytes. Obviously, if this was a terabyte drive, it would take a little bit longer. So I'm going to turn on the time machine, and we will get this done pretty quick. Okay, we're finished. So now all we need to do is open this up so we can do crypt setup. Luke's open, and it's going to be dev mapper nas -nas, and then we'll call it NAS-crypt. That's what we've been doing. Oops. Let's see. Should have asked for a passphrase. So, oh, that's right. Because we have the header not with the drive, we have to specify that. So I think let me just put that here. Header dev SDC. There we go. Now it's asking for the passphrase. Okay. And we can look at ls block again. So now you notice we have SDB, SDB1, NAS, the LVM, and then NAS-crypt is the crypt. And now we can mount dev mapper NAS-crypt to NAS. We'll go to our NAS volume, and there's our file test. And if we print it out, there's all our data, and we are encrypted. We can do crypt setup status NAS-crypt, and as you can see, we're encrypted with using AES, read write. It's all good. Now if we look at our volumes with fdisk, you'll notice that SDC, which is where the header information is, there's no partition. There's nothing that indicates that any data has been written to this drive. So you just kind of have to know that you have to specify that. So let's say now we want to set it up so that we mount this when we boot up. Well, if you remember, we'll go back to Etsy. We have the crypt tab file, and we have to put in that we want NAS-crypt, and then the volume is dev mapper NAS. That's the LVM that has our encryption. And now we got to put in the third column was like we could put in a plain text password, or we could put in none, so it'll prompt us, which we'll do that. But we also need to put in the header. So the header is a fourth option, and we just, whoops, we put in header equals, and we put in the drive, SDC. And we're assuming that SDC will always be assigned to this USB stick. There is a way to make that always the case. Anyways, so we will we'll leave that, and let's do a, well, actually if we did a reboot right now, we would not be able to get back in with our putty because it'd be sitting there asking for the password. So let's do a reboot. Oh, I'm sorry, almost forgot. We got to do FS tab, and we're going to put in dev mapper NAS-crypt. It's going to map to, or it's going to mount on NAS. We're running ext4, take defaults, and 0, 0 there. All right, now we should be good. Okay, I'm on the NAS console, and I'm going to issue a reboot command. Okay, it's prompting for the password. And so let's bring up networking. Yep, so here we are. And if we're lucky, yep, not sure. But as you can see, it did use the header on the USB drive. At this point, I could take the USB stick out of the computer because we're mounted, and it already has the header information. Now, if we if we ever had to, let's say we were going to add a file to use on the key as the password, and have to add it to the key ring, well, we'd have to write that new information to the header. So we would have to have the USB stick back in the computer, and we just specify the header command line arg like I did before, specifying dev STC in this case whenever we did the Luke's add. But beyond that, everything else remains the same. Just have to remember the header. And like I said, at this point, we take the USB stick out and put it in a safe somewhere. And as long as you don't lose power or anything like that, computer will run fine. If you do lose power or reboot, then when the computer comes back up, it will have to have that USB drive in order to mount the NAS. So there's some pros and cons to doing it this way, but I prefer doing it like this with the extra security. So to wrap up what this video was about, we were able to do an in-place encryption of our LVM. In the next video, I want to show how we can do in-place encryption of a software RAID 5. Pretty similar setup, so it won't be a very long video. And so if you like what you saw here, please click like, and I would appreciate it if you subscribed and ring the bell. And I guess that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.